Hello everyone, welcome to Business Way TV. This is the Vietnam edition. Thanks to its dynamic economy, large population and stable political environment, Vietnam is globally recognized as a promising destination to grow business and as a safe haven to invest into. So for these reasons and because COVID China Plus One investment strategy convinces many investors that they need an alternative, we at Business Way TV are regularly asked for both strategic and practical advice related to investing in Vietnam. And also to look at, for example, market strategies and such. And people usually ask things around, should we invest in Vietnam? How should we do it? What are opportunities? What are some risks that we need to take into account? But also, how much money can I make? And also the costs that I need to make. What are these about? What do I need to think about? So we therefore have invited Monsieur Vincent Treluyer from Provigood to help us reply to these questions. And the main question, how to enter the Vietnamese market successfully. So welcome Vincent Treluyer. Great to see you.
Thank you, Thaj. Very happy to be here again for the second time. Thank you for welcoming me here.
Yeah, absolutely. So always a pleasure to have you here, Vincent. So before we start talking about investing in Vietnam, can you tell us a bit about yourself and about Provigood, your business?
Sure. Well, I've basically been living in Asia, Taiwan, China, and Vietnam for 25 years. I've been working in Vietnam since 2007. And I have been living in Ho Chi Minh City since 2009, so it's been 13 years now. And I mostly work for large FMCG companies. I have opened two representative offices here for Bell in 2008 and for Lactalis in 2013. I have incorporated two companies, one foreign invested company in 2011 and a Vietnamese invested company in 2018.
Fantastic. So today, what are you and Provigood exactly doing?
Well, since 2018, Provigood basically assists the companies of the food and FMCG sectors, mostly these two sectors, although we could add beverage trading, retail and pharmaceutical sectors, but mostly food and FMCG sectors, in relation with any of their projects in, from and to Vietnam. We basically handle any business development project that they do not want to do or they would prefer us to do. As part of our market, as part of our services, we help customers to export, open factories, representative office, branches, set up local teams, put in place a collaborator in Vietnam, find an acquisition or an investment to make, launch a franchise, or represent their company and brands. We also assist customers who are already in Vietnam with any other development activities such as marketing, sales, distribution, R&D, HR, logistics, cost optimization, export. We, for example, distribute compostable coffee capsules, which are 100% made in Vietnam. And we also, for example, and you know it very well, Thaj, we also provide a large offer of trainings to our customers. Such trainings are usually about soft skills, project management. The scope of our activities is extremely wide. That might be because I may get bored to do always the same thing.
Yeah, fair enough. And yes, the trainings are very familiar, of course. And it also sounds that you've done a lot of work for companies to actually start up their business or continue their business or launch new products in Vietnam. So how many, if you look at market entry, how many products or brands did you help to launch here in Vietnam?
I would say dozens of brands and probably hundreds of products, mostly in the food sector.
So over the past 13 years, you've been opening up two representative offices, incorporated two companies, and launched dozens of brands and hundreds of products. So can you please tell us a couple of things, like what are the main things that you've learned while doing all of this?
Well, I learned quite a lot of things doing all of this, but I would say successful market entry in Vietnam depends on basically four major success criteria. The first success criteria is about understanding the market, the competitors, the consumers, the client, including trade and retail environment, which is quite specific in Vietnam. The second success criteria to enter Vietnam successfully, and before setting any strategy, is to consist in well understanding your environment, your business environment, consisting mostly in legal, financial, and often forgotten cultural environment. The third success criteria basically consists in defining your strategy and your market entry strategy and product according to not only your own strategy, but also according to your market, your consumer, and your business environment. And the last point I would like to talk to about regarding market entry, and that can be also forgotten sometimes, is about investing on people. Choose partners, collaborators, contractors, and even clients if you can carefully. Trust them and do your best to support them along the way.
Those are four, big categories. If I listen to you, so if you look at, what it is that Provigood does, and you think about these four success criteria, that you need in order to launch in Vietnam, what do you usually do to help your customers understand the Vietnamese market well?
Well, what we do to help our customers understand the Vietnamese market well basically depends on the size of the company we assist and the resource they are willing to invest to do so. Large companies usually know what to do to study their market, understand their consumers, target and reach them. Provigood produces its own market studies and also partner with specialized consumer survey companies when needed. There's plenty of opportunities for large FMCG companies in Vietnam, as the overall product offer remains quite limited compared to other more major markets.
When you look at these large companies, right, you say that they typically know, their business already quite well. But still, what would you pay? What do you feel that these large companies need to pay attention to and do or not do when they study the Vietnamese market?
Yes, this is a good question. Thank you, Thaj. I think there is a risk here for these large corporations, no matter how much money they spend on the consumer research, is sometimes to be victim of their own bias and to look for possible means to develop and deploy their corporate strategy in Vietnam at all costs without paying enough attention to what Vietnamese consumers actually say to them and actually want. Some of them, so I've seen some companies, therefore blindly offering in Vietnam whatever product their corporate strategy dictated them to offer, without honestly facing nor fully taking into full consideration the local market reality, such as consumer taste, habits, usage, purchase power, culture, trade structure, and even in some case Vietnamese food safety regulation. As a matter of fact, it can sometimes be sensitive for large corporations' employees to speak out freely or what they may think is against their company global strategies. Thus, it's sometimes necessary for them to have a third party to remind their top management how they may adjust their strategy to local market reality.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm smiling actually because, like you, also come from quite a bit of a business environment at bigger companies, and actually also over there, you sometimes see that the bigger companies are sometimes taken away by their own idea about what their product and their market should look like, right?
Absolutely.
But as a result, to your point, right, sometimes they miss the local entry for the market, specifically because they stick to their own ideas, right?
Absolutely.
So do you have any good examples for that?
Yes, so far I can remember a consumer survey we made. It was not in Vietnam, but it was in China for a cheese brand called Baby Bell. This is this cheese portion wrapped into a red wax ball. Are you familiar with it, Saj? Have you seen
no,
that?
but it sounds good.
All right.
I mean,
this was back in 2007. At that time, Bell, the manufacturer, was quite confident that the shape, the red color, the small snack size, the fresh taste, and the affordable price of the product could be of a nature to convince and delight Chinese consumers.
Right.
Well, and the focus group we then organized showed a sample of Chinese consumers eating the product together with the wax packaging, the red wax packaging that was actually covering the product. Then we saw them scolding and grimacing, of course, and based on these findings, Bell wisely decided to put the focus on other lines of products such as Baby Bell or other processed cheese products. So this example, I think, well illustrates that by not taking anything for granted, we can avoid major mistakes.
where would you come in? What would be your role to make sure that these larger companies help, or where you help them to understand their market?
Well, we help them on every aspect of their go-to-market and entrance strategy. We help our client to adjust their product portfolio to local consumer tastes. Sometimes we help them develop and taste new recipes. We help them understand who their consumers and customers are, where they are, what they buy or would like to buy. How to best reach them at the lowest possible cost. It's important to precise that the trade structure in Vietnam is quite particular, and we have a lot of general trade outlets that can be challenging to reach. So we basically handle for them whatever task their international marketing teams need help for to define the right entry strategy.
Okay, fair enough. So far you've talked a lot about the larger companies. What is it that you do for smaller companies that would like to understand the local market?
Yes, there are a lot of small and medium companies who are also willing to enter the market and who cannot afford to invest a huge amount of money in consumer research. So for them, we usually conduct ad hoc or tailor-made market research, store check, retail audits, professional interview. We also arrange meetings with qualified professionals and partners such as importers and so on. They can get feedback from. Usually our ad hoc surveys allow them to reply to the key business questions they have in mind, such as how much money could I make in Vietnam within 1 to 3 years? What is the market size? Who are my competitors? What do they sell? How do they advert? Who are my potential customers? What do they currently buy? Where? In what quantity? At what frequency? What price? What do they actually need? And so on. What is the relevant distribution perimeter for my product in Vietnam? How many and what types of outlets should my product be sold into? How to reach and to cover these outlets, at what cost, what are the retailer trading terms and conditions to list and sell my products in Vietnam. And therefore, once we've answered all that, customers can figure out what resource it is reasonable for them to invest to enter a Vietnamese market successfully. And once above research is done, a proper entry plan, also called go-to-market plan, can be put together.
Great stuff. Yeah. So when I listen to that, right, actually, it sounds like whether you're a big company, medium size, or small, right, in each of these cases, it doesn't really work for each of these companies to, without, with their blinds on, so to speak, just stick to their own, company product or portfolio. But actually need to check, well, first of all, the company product and portfolio we have so far, and the things that worked in other countries, right? How are they actually holding up here in Vietnam? And also then, how would people then here customize it to make sure that it actually fits well within the Vietnamese market? Is that correct?
Absolutely. I've seen companies, those who enter the Vietnamese market without a good understanding of the local consumer, clear mapping of their competition, or deep understanding of the retail structure, or a clear estimate of their potential revenue and cost, can fail. It is regrettable that wrong expectation sometimes leads to disappointment and frustration, not only for the new entrant themselves, but also for their partners, importers, distributors, agency, contractors, and employees they embark with them. It can happen to the best, and we all remember Auchan, the French retailer, who pulled back from Vietnam and sold its 18th supermarket after just 5 years of operations here. Wow. On the contrary, having the right expectation, thus setting the right goals, usually allows new entrants to deploy proper plans and to collaborate fruitfully and durably with their local partners and their employees.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, you previously mentioned understanding the local business environment was the second key success factor, right, to enter the Vietnamese market. So what do you mean by business environment, and what can you tell us about this?
Well, by business environment, I mean mostly legal, financial, and cultural business environment.
Okay. So what would you like to share to the audience about these particular elements?
Well, about the legal environment, the major advice I would like to share with new market entrants or investors is that Vietnam is a sovereign country ruled by its own laws and regulation, and that under no reason new entrants shall assume the law and regulation applicable in their own country could, would, or even should be applicable or prevail in Vietnam.
So what do you mean exactly by that?
Well, I mean that although Vietnamese legal system was partly influenced by French legal system, such an assumption, I mean the assumption that it would be the same in Vietnam, usually results in a waste of time and money where people convinced by their wrong assumptions ask the wrong questions to the wrong people and fail to get a correct and documented answer quickly and at a reasonable price. This is particularly true in large corporations who usually work with international lawyers based outside Vietnam and who only rely on local lawyers to get the right practical answers and things done.
I'm sure you have some examples of this one.
Yes, I have plenty of examples, and I may take only one because we may run out of time, but I would like to talk a bit about trademark protection because this is something that every company who enters Vietnam can be concerned about. Trademark protection in Vietnam is a simple formality that costs a few $100s and can be done directly by filling a simple application at the local intellectual property office. It can be done quickly under the condition no similar brand has been registered in the same class of goods or services previously. Such a verification can and shall be done prior to any trademark registration application in order to avoid wasting time and money applying for a brand name that would already be protected in the classes of good in the same classes of goods and services. I have seen large corporations spending tens of thousands of dollars with international lawyers to fill an international application under Madrid IP system, resulting in dozens of emails back and forth and ending up being stuck with their trademark protection and usage in Vietnam just because other people registered similar trademark faster than them in the same classes of goods and services.
Well, it sounds like they, talking to you, they could have saved a couple of $1,000s there.
Yeah, sure.
So that's an interesting example. So you have any more examples around that?
Well, yes. I could share many of them. Here's another one. For example, there are about 400 food additive authorized to be used in Vietnam. Such number is rather inferior to the number of authorized additive in many other Western countries. For perspective, it is the responsibility of the manufacturer and the importer to declare the conformity of goods to Vietnamese food safety regulation before selling or importing it. It is therefore a safe and useful precaution to check the product to be launched in Vietnam do not contain any unauthorized additive or substance before getting started with the legally required product analysis and conformity declaration.
So, I mean, you've talked about a couple of legal matters in this case, right? How would you advise the audience to handle their legal matters?
Well, navigating smoothly across legal matters implies to raise only the right legal questions. Sometimes people get overwhelmed because they're wondering about things that they have no reason to wonder about. And they forget important questions to be raised. And I think the way we really help our clients is to make sure that they are not wondering about the wrong things first. And thanks to our experience and practice of local market, plus our partnership with both international lawyers who are based in Vietnam and who have an experience of Vietnam, and also our partnership with local lawyers who can handle practical matters at a relatively cheap cost, we usually can provide. We can usually help our customers to save a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, because they actually know what's going on, right? So
much
easier this way. Yeah. So how about Vietnamese financial and investment environment?
Well, here again, there are a few things to take into consideration. Firstly, Vietnamese GDP will continue to grow very fast. It's forecasted to be in the group of the countries with the highest growth rate in Southeast Asia in 2022 and 2023. International organizations such as Moody's, World Bank, IMF and ADB forecast Vietnam GDP growth in 2022 at respectively 8.5%, 7.2%, 7% and 6.5%. Secondly, Vietnam is a safe investment destination according to General Statistic Office. Here, realized FDI investment in Vietnam in the first 9 months of 2022 was estimated to 15.33 billion USD, up 16.3% over the same period last year. This is the highest level of realized FDI in 9 months for the past 5 years. So, thirdly, Vietnamese government continues to simplify the regulation of investment activities. I cannot detail all of them right now here. Yes, so therefore we may
you may consider it a very safe space, essentially, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, true, and you've highlighted this too, being here or having been here for 13 years already.
Yes.
That you actually know about these things and have experienced it yourself as well, which helps a lot too, right? So, so what would you like to share? When you think about mastering the cultural environment in order to enter the Vietnamese market successfully.
There are a few things I would like to share regarding cultural differences here in Vietnam. First of all, there is a lot of similarities between Western and Vietnamese culture, and I usually prefer to focus on common points than on differences. Nevertheless, there are a few differences that it is important to keep in mind when doing business here in Vietnam. There is a very good study called Work-Related Values in International Workplaces in Vietnam, Cross-Cultural Differences Between Employers and Employees, that was led by Chan Tin Quin Chan, Wilfried Admiral and Nadira Saab, and published in the Open Journal of Business and Management in 2020. The research shows that work-related values between Western and Vietnamese can be different, and notably the sense of time, the distance to power, the management and leadership style, as well as the face-related concern and the accountability, which are perceived differently by Westerners and by Vietnamese. It would be too long to detail all of this here, but I therefore invite you to read this insightful research.
Yeah, good reference, and working and being a consultant myself in Vietnam actually brings me to some of these things as well. So what they're highlighting is quite insightful, and I think also highlights the main points there, right? So would you please share an example of how these cultural differences can impact the business?
Sure. For example, leadership is perceived differently by Vietnamese and by Western culture. The definition is different. Being influenced by Confucianism. Thank you, Saj. Authoritarian leadership and is commonly seen in Vietnamese organizational structures and culture. In this kind of leadership, the managers usually show their power over their employee, and the decisions are often made by the management. In contrast, work performance-orientated leadership can be defined as the degree to which a collective encourage and rewards group members for performance improvement and excellence. In Western culture, autonomy and individual initiative are encouraged, and the employees have more freedom to take their actions in the workplace context.
So having said that, what would new entrants and new investors do?
Well, understand. I have witnessed many situations where Western employers were expecting Western kind of leadership from their Vietnamese employees and counterparts, while Vietnamese employees were just expecting their Western bosses to take clear decisions so that they could themselves take actions accordingly. Such situation can create confusion and frustration in both sides, and should be addressed by cross-cultural leadership and communication trainings. At Provigood, we partner, and you know it, with the best trainers and provide suitable training contents to address this and other matters.
Yep, very true. So I guess the audience now realize how important it is, to well understand the local market, the business environment, and also the legal environment, before setting a winning entry strategy, right? But tell us, what would such a winning entry strategy look like?
Well, the winning entry strategy basically depends, of course, of each business, but I would say the winning approach is the one that, number one, remains in line with global corporate strategy, is aiming at fact-based goals that have been set after and not before having taken Vietnamese market, consumers, and business environment specificities into full consideration. And as a matter of fact, I have seen large companies deciding on opening a branch here, forecasting revenues and profit targets before fully understanding what their exact market potential was, or what the cost of doing business was. And they can lead only to disappointment. On the contrary, I've seen companies opening a rep office first and developing their distribution network through distributors, gradually investing in their own people to build and train this distributor team, investing in medias and building their brand, doing so, and then opening successfully a factory in Vietnam to finally lower down their costs and improve the quality of their supply here in Vietnam to even best serve the Vietnamese consumers. So the right entry strategy mostly depend on timing and balance between actual revenues and expense. I have also seen some companies opening factory in Vietnam to first supply export markets and then gradually adapt their production to the local market needs. Other companies may decide to first source Vietnamese agricultural products to give their teams the necessary time to well apprehend the local market specificities to develop a proper offer for the local consumer here. And I think such approaches can be very successful because they allow to cover part of the operating expense and structure cost without having the pressure to generate an immediate revenue locally. Last but not least, acquisition is often forgotten, but when investors can afford it, it remains a very effective way to enter the Vietnamese market, especially when the business purchased already has a strong distribution network or reputation. So the acquisition of Big C by Central Group is a good example of the acceleration such move can represent to any business.
Yeah, so that's quite a few elements, you know, that we need to look at then.
Sure.
But each of these seems that that you can actually help with essentially, right? So how would you then pick, or how would you help the new market entrants to pick the right strategy?
Well, basically, it depends on what my customer are asking me to do. Some of them, they are plus or less hands-on, and some of them are plus or less willing to hear a lot of different kinds of recommendations. But I basically help my customers to look at the market, the local consumer needs, the distribution network, and to consider the multiple aspects of the local environment before, and again, I insist on the before, setting the right goals and strategy to reach it.
So, thank you, Vincent. So, you mentioned investing in people was also important to successfully enter the market. So, what do you mean by investing in people?
Well, I mean, basically three things. First, take the necessary time to select, recruit the right people according to the business size, the business challenge, and considering the business may grow quickly, and that these people you recruit will have to continuously adapt to the size of the new size of their business. Right. Secondly, trust and support the people you have recruited. Once my boss told me, whoever you work with, please find yourself a reason to love them. I think it was a very interesting statement that I first scratched my head looking at my boss, trying to figure out what he was meaning. But I realized with time that this was a very good advice. And I think that if we apply this advice in Vietnam, we may be considered as a good manager. What I mean is that Vietnamese employees strongly value the quality of the relationship they have with their managers, their boss, their colleagues, and setting clear goals, taking rational decisions, supporting employee through these decisions all along the way is absolutely necessary. Vietnamese friends will also strongly value to feel that they are collectively and individually treated as family. We know how important family is in Vietnam, and if we can reproduce this family atmosphere in a company, it's usually much appreciated and a source of employee loyalty as well. Then train the people. I mean, Vietnam is still a relatively newly open economy. Vietnam acceded to WTO in 2007, so it's not that long ago. And we have junior people here who can learn and grow very fast, but we have also some people who can easily jump from one job to another without having fully learned what they should have in the previous job. So for this reason, I think continuous training is needed and will be appreciated, will make our employees stay longer at your company as well.
Yeah, very true. Well, thank you very much, for all your insightful sharing. I'm sure the ways to enter the Vietnamese market successfully are now a little bit clearer, for the people who have watched today's edition. And I understand that Provigood can help new entrants do that.
Absolutely, we can help those companies who want to enter Vietnamese market on all aspects of their business, and I insist on that. And we can help them also do many other things once they have entered the market. Right. That's also something I wanted to emphasize, because life starts after you have entered and not before. So this is where the company can need a lot of help, and we are here all along the way here with our 250 partners now who can intervene on the mission. We tailor-made for each of our customers.
Fantastic. All right, so thank you, Vincent. So we'll make sure that we share your contacts at the end of the video for the audience. And I really hope to see you again on Business Way TV. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you very much, Thaj. You will surely see me again on Business Way TV. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.